citizen that they are going to bring more subsidy. Now the problem is, if you are giving more subsidy, you also have to find a way to ensure that you are also getting through the tax income, and the tax income, be it the corporate or the direct in terms of the income tax, will increase if the economy is doing well.
Right.
Now that's also not happening in the context of the European region, in particular in the context of the UK economy, because the growth rate is falling, and B, you also see inflation which is never happened over the last 20 years. So this is a cause of concern, and I don't know how whatever their two prime ministerial candidates, they are promising that they are going to meet this situation by giving more food subsidy and other form of subsidy. I don't know how they are actually going to finance this, because otherwise your debt to GDP ratio is going to go. And without that, without trying to telling to the citizen that how you are going to finance it, I think it's going to be a difficult situation for UK.
And also, one of the studies says that the food inflation is going to continue for the next 6 months. What kind of repercussions is it going to bring, and what is it that can be done to avert that situation?
Yeah, because we are soon going to see the winter going to set in the European continent, and in that way, I think a country like India, we are in a much sweet spot, because our food grain production this year in the Q4 number, if I look into, is around 4.2%, which is actually more than the long-term trend in growth of agricultural output. So unless and otherwise we see some kind of ease in the trade flow happening across the European region, or for that matter, countries like India, Indonesia, which are one of the bigger, even in China, one of the bigger producer of edible oil or wheat or rice or pulses, that kind of items. Now the problem is, because of war, most of the countries, as we have seen over the last 2 months, they are actually stockpiling their own food reserve because they want to ensure that their citizens, they first get the food and then they try to export. And for all good reason, perhaps we saw that why the Indian government during the initial month of April and May, they kind of put some restriction on wheat and oil export, and as well as sugar export. So this I think is a welcome move. It's a kind of something the government has seen through, that this crisis is happening, and if you allow the export, the price in the Indian market is also going to go up. So I think initially the government took stock of the situation, ensured that we have enough of food available for the domestic economy, and now they are allowing the export to happen, which I think is a very good move.
Positive move. Absolutely, yeah. Dr. Banik, but very important point over here is because we are standing here with two contrasting images. One is UK, one is India. Talking about UK first, you would have heard about the famous footballer Marcus Rashford. He narrated his story that how he was surviving on midday meals to get his part of nutrition, and he says how important it is. And still he is struggling. He is witnessing many school students who are struggling with the midday meal schemes. But on the other hand, talking about India, India is having schemes like PM Poshan. India has struggled through the COVID-19 pandemic also, but they did not let the PM Poshan or any other scheme get affected with the pandemic, with the challenges that have been posed by the pandemic.
No, I should give kudos to the government, because if you see, the primary education is a sector which have got lots of positive externality. What I mean is, if you look into the data, historical data, way back in 1950s or 60s, South Korea and China, their per capita income was much less than India's per capita income. But just by putting emphasis on primary education, now we see that both South Korea and China is going to become developed countries within 1 or 2 years from now. They have become developed. So what this PM Poshan thing is doing, I think, is a remarkable job in terms of positive externality, because if you are able to bring these kids to the school, there are many other positive impact. For instance, the child marriage, you can postpone the child marriage because now the girl student, they can come to the school. There will be a positive impact on health. There will be a positive impact on the infant mortality. There will be a positive impact on the skill development, you know. So during the COVID times, that was one of the concern that most of the economists they had, which is because these kids were not able to go to the school, they are actually lagging behind. But
Right.
I think now, after the COVID, the government is doing a remarkable job in terms of ensuring better availability of nutritious food to the students, and that will lead to the skill development. That will lead to, in fact, meet some of our sustainable development goal, which is mandated by the UN.
Absolutely, Dr. Banik. But India has, although concluded and surpassed all hurdles which were posed by COVID-19 pandemic and other challenges, but still there is a threat to food security, which is climate change. What
Yes.
can be done and how can we overcome that challenge?
See, climate change is something, is what we call is a public good. Something you cannot actually, most part of it is not under the control of the government. The government can bring in rules and regulation, but how much of that the publics are following, you have to actually ensure that through implementation of law. For instance, when we are talking about climate change, there can be variety of facets. Do I look into the clean drinking water? Do I look into the climate change impacting our agricultural output? Because if you talk to the farmers in the Himachal Pradesh, they will say that this year almost 300 million rupees of crop got wasted. Apple got wasted because they had rainfall during the month of April, which never happened. Even if you talk to the farmers in Karnataka or other southern part of India, they will complain that because of excessive rain in some part of India, you see the price of lemon, price of potato, price
Right.
of tomato, they have gone through the roof. So this kind of, so we cannot control in a way the climate change, because unless and otherwise we bring into the table all other parties. But the problem right now is starting with what has happened with the Taiwan. The two big countries in the world, China and USA, they have actually stalled their talk on the climate change, and which
Right.
is, which I think is a very pessimistic way of looking at the thing, because this is something which is impacting each one of us.
Absolutely.
Even in case of China and Europe, you have seen so many hectares of land getting burnt up.
Absolutely. So climate change is something which is not in the control of the government, but each individual has to work towards avert such a situation, because India is already on the right track. We need to avert many other coming challenges.